Hello, everyone. So, this is coming from you live from Augustina College, and this is WAGDET FM Radioactive. So, this is Anne Bach with another episode of the College Mindset Podcast. And today, I thought we could talk about the concept of you versus the world mentality. I find this is pretty common, not only with, how I've have seen life, but how other college students I think have seen life, especially in certain field degrees such as pre-med, STEM fields. I think this is pretty common. This idea of give it your all with no distractions. And again, I just want to give a little disclaimer that this may not be what you're dealing with or have, but I do encourage you to listen to my story and my perspective on it, and it's totally okay if you don't agree with me. But I hope that, again, my voice may be similar to others out there that have gone through a similar situation, or, basically if someone's on the same page, hopefully, someone out there can hear this message and take their own perception of it, and maybe it will help you, or a friend in need. Okay, so the topic. So you versus the world mentality. So again, it is not necessarily, or even, maybe it's not even a healthy thing to have this type of mindset. And so this is what's up for discussion, and maybe you'll have your own interpretation on this. Whether, it's healthy to do this mentally, even physically. I'm obviously going to have my own interpretation, but again, I just encourage you to have an open perspective on this topic. All right, so I thought I could share a little bit of my history. I've not really talked about myself in a whole lot of detail yet on this podcast, so I thought I'd give a little bit of detail to share, how I've gotten here, and, even why I do this. So let's see. So I thought I could start with just high school in general. High school was a very interesting time. But I'm going to just talk about the work and social life of my high school experience, and how I think that's shaped how I view college and, working in college, and just my mental health in college in general. So in high school, I definitely had a very overworking, striving to succeed mentality, where it wasn't very balanced. It was more very heavily weighed on just working, and let's say junior year I was prepping for ACT courses. I had tutoring, I had classes I went to, I was on the swim team, I was in the Peoria String Quartet, I was involved in the Central Illinois Youth Symphony. I was hired to play gigs all around Peoria and outside of Peoria, and I taught private lessons. I had my own studio, and that began in sophomore year of high school. So I've been juggling all that, my own practice time, doing AP courses, and of course, I did not include me time. That wasn't even a question. I thought me time was going to sleep at night. So, definitely lacked that. And of course, I'll get to how that carried through into the beginning of my college career. Me time at the time was just being able to sleep maybe for 6 hours. That was the goal, 6 hours of sleep. That was a dream come true. Especially with early morning practices. So all you sports lovers out there know my struggle. This mentality that I think schools definitely feed a lot into is, to succeed, you need to give everything your all. Your grades matter. Your ACT score, your SAT score matters, the grades you get on your tests, your relationships with others, your relationships with teachers, on and on. And at a certain degree, you're almost giving your worth based on how others perceive you. And at that moment, you kind of are, because you take in this information of, all right, if I'm going to get into college and succeed, I have to meet all of these requirements. So, and that's the information that we're fed at the very beginning of high school of how to succeed in life. And the start is in schooling, education, obviously. So, I definitely took this to heart because, again, I won't go into much detail, but I definitely, myself and family members have struggled a lot financially and just mentally. And so education was my time to shine and to strive to be the best me. But I didn't really know what that was. I kept saying, like, I wanted to be successful, and I don't think, and a lot of us, I don't think, have any direction of what that actually looks like. And it's really a very foggy topic, and I think most of the information that is given to us is misleading, especially if you're getting information off of social media, which is, again, something that we all look at constantly. So we're constantly being influenced by social media on what me time or, you know, your own care looks like. So I had a very go for it mentality, but I had the problem of definitely overworking myself. I did not know how to balance everything, and it definitely led to being more anxious and socially anxious and not knowing how to even have fun. I hung out with friends, but again, our hanging out time was just studying. Sometimes I've had sleepovers, but that was rarely. It was mostly studying for tests or exams, ACT prepping, AP prepping, and just things like that. So I'd say the turnaround of this mentality where I reached, I'd say, my peak, not even peak, I'd say it was kind of like a teen life crisis, if you can only call it that. I've been saying midlife crisis, but I'm like, Anne, you're only 21. So an 18-year-old crisis. And that was when I went to swim practice. I'd kind of reached a peak in senior year of high school where I was beyond exhausted and miserable. I was definitely overworking myself, and when I went to my cello lessons, my teacher could definitely tell I was not practicing enough. I was exhausted. I could barely even stay awake during the lessons, and my goal was music. It was cello. Like, that was the goal, and that's something that I wanted to pursue in college. So, and I wasn't, in my mind, I wasn't giving it my all. So, as a lot of perfectionists out there understand, it's very easy to beat yourself up. So, my cello teacher, and you can have your own interpretation or opinion on this, but he told me that it was either music or swimming. I had to cut something out of my life, and I had to be one or the other. And that was hard, to sacrifice or give something up for what he thought was a greater good. But I also was influenced that, yes, that's the greater good. I'm doing something that is that's my life goal, is to be a good cellist. So I'm showing myself as worthy by sacrificing something. And we do this all the time. We're told that if we sacrifice social life, our mental health, and again, this is subconsciously, I don't think none of us would go out of our way to say, I'm going to sacrifice my mental health and all this. No, we never consciously think that, but I do think we pick up subconscious cues, and we do have a tendency of shutting others out or other things out of our life to focus on one thing. I think that's something that a lot of us have in common. So when I was while I was going through high school, I noticed that was definitely a problem. So, going off of that, I think that is something that definitely sparked a heavy debate in my mind, because my coach sat me down and just said, "You're gonna let someone else dictate your life?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am, because this is important to me." So yeah, that was kind of a turnaround point. And again, maybe none of you have had that yet. That's definitely happened to me. It's gonna happen in if you're involved in music. I'm sure you've had kind of that moment where people question, like, is this really what you want to do? So, all right, so on to better things. So that was kind of my first, I'm going to sacrifice something, and I want to give music my all. And so I did. And it was a freeing feeling to a certain degree. And I had all of my friends on the swim team just were so amazing and encouraged me. They were sad that I had left, but they still made locker signs for me and showed me so much support and love. And I just could not ask for better friendships. And I even performed for some national anthems. It was a side story, yeah. Because I just love them so much. So yeah, it was a great experience. And thinking back, it taught me, and swimming just gave me so much. And it actually gave, I actually thank my coach a lot, or just my friends that encouraged me to swim, because I would not have the social life and confidence that I had. That was like the stepping stone to gaining some confidence in myself. And that has a huge impact of any performance you do. Speaking, performing an instrument, anything. Your self-confidence goes a long ways when you're performing. So I really thank my coach in swimming for that. So moving on into college. So I had a advisor in high school. Sorry, not college, but in high school, that told me that I needed a backup plan because I was majoring in music. And at first I said, no, I definitely want to focus on music. I've given up a lot just to focus on music. I can just focus on music. But again, as we all are influenced to do, we are influenced to listen to others' opinions who are older and, of course, as wiser, I guess, than we are, they're put in higher positions, so we trust them. So I decided to go into Augustana, and I wanted to major in pre-med and cello performance. And I did not realize how difficult both pre-med and cello performance were. So cello performance, you first have to take very heavy music theory classes, and 2 to 3 hours of practicing a day, along with pre-med courses of chemistry and in labs and all that. So it was a lot to juggle. But I love science and I loved chemistry. It's not that I didn't like the pre-med program, but I still had this mentality this closed-minded mentality that I came from coming from high school, and I was like, I'm coming here for cello. I gave up so much for cello. I think I'm going to give up the pre-med degree because I need to focus on cello. There's no way I can combine both. So I'm just going to focus on cello. And so I had that mentality freshman year. And it was very hard to, I guess I'm saying it was very hard to focus on any of my other classes, because then I was so fixated on, all right, when am I practicing? When am I going to get this done? I have to be successful. I was constantly thinking about one thing. It was overly, I think, obsessive, because I was just thinking of having a better future, a cello performance future of mine, that I wasn't allowing myself to immerse in the other studies and be curious, which is something that I've been preaching about on here, is the importance of being curious and not setting concrete goals for yourself. And again, this might be totally, against what you've believed for a long time, but I promise to just hear me out. And again, not setting concrete goals doesn't mean having a plan. I think planning is important, but not having a goal that has to be met at a certain time. I think that's really important. All right, so again, that was my beginning of college experience, is the difficulty of dropping pre-med and continuing with my cello performance career in life. I was waking up early to practice. I was teaching lessons still, all that good stuff. And I was starting to get a little bit more social, and that was something that I needed. I set the goal of making friends. I didn't put a cap on that. Obviously, I love to talk, but I'm also an introvert, so I needed alone time too, and I was able to give myself that. All right, so I'm going to fast forward to junior year of college. And I'd say that was probably the hardest year of a long time. I've definitely had some very, very rough patches, but I think this was similar to, I can't even say similar. I don't think we have very similar experiences. Sometimes we do in life, but this is definitely a change, especially with COVID. That's just, the cherry on top. But junior year was a year where I'm going to give a rundown of everything I have done. So I somehow balanced working part-time at Starbucks, and that included getting up at 4:30 in the morning for my 5 a.m. shift. I was taking difficult upper-level courses that required hours of studying and writing. I was in 2 string quartets, the Augustana Symphony Orchestra. I worked part-time at West Music. I had my own private cello, or I did and still have my own private cello studio, and I was the ambassador for the Quad City Bass Festival for the fall of 2019. And most importantly, my most loved job, I don't really get paid for it, but I was the cello mom of our cello section. So I just got to pamper them and, talk to all of them. And that's what I love to do. So, all right. So I guess I'm going to ask the question you're probably all wondering is, what's missing out of that? And you're probably thinking, wow, and you must not have a social life. You're right. Actually, I did. And I'm going to bring up this later in the discussion, but I finally realized how important it was to incorporate my mental health and social life in every aspect that I did. And that included working. It included being in 2 string quartets. I wanted to incorporate things that I loved, and I wanted my time to be saturated in things and activities that I purely enjoyed. So as busy as this sounds, I loved being in quartets and working with people. I loved playing my cello, but I was still missing something, and I was still missing some time to just ask myself, what do I want? What is actually, are all of these things actually making me happy? I never stopped and wondered, all right, what do I need to do to live a successful life while playing cello and going to school? So that's just something I did. So I just wanted to point out that now it's a completely different story. I definitely make a lot of time for myself and things like that. I say it's my senior year, I live definitely a very balanced life, which is not something I could say about my junior year. So junior year was a whole catastrophe of just doing all these things and just still not being curious. I was still so close-minded. I only wanted to, I felt like I still wasn't doing enough. This feeling of I still wasn't achieving my greatest self. I wasn't practicing enough. I wasn't giving it my all. I still cared about what other people thought of me, professors, what they said about me, what my grades were. I wasn't allowing myself to just learn and immerse in my studies and just be curious and open-minded. So one thing that I'd like to say from that is I realized how limited my mindset was And I encourage you, especially if you're a first year, is to not give yourself a limited mindset. I know you probably have huge goals coming into college or even out of college, but what if you even opened those goals up to other goals or branch out? And again, this is something I think a liberal arts education does, is it gives you all these opportunities to see all these amazing other subjects that there are and all the things that you can incorporate in your goals. And maybe those goals change, and life is just going to be fluid like that. Or it's okay and totally normal to change your mind. And I think it's healthy to even change your mind on something, and not obsess over it so much. Life is supposed to be diverse, and I don't think we give enough diversity to our interests and our passions and inclusivity of others around us. And I think that truly creates balance, is being able to incorporate social and mental and filling our time with, aka being busy with things that actually give us fulfillment and happiness. And again, it's not always going to be like that. It's not going to be rainbows and butterflies. I'm not promising that. But finding happiness and including mental health in every single day life will kind of be the building blocks to kind of grow off this foundation of healthy well-being, especially in college, is being flexible, and knowing that no one has it down. No one's perfect. No one, even if they seem like they know what they're doing with their life, life is definitely going to knock you down in a million different directions. So being able to be flexible is definitely something that is hard to do, but is achievable. So yeah. So now as a senior, I'm working for the grounds crew. I still have my own cello studio, and however, I have learned how to incorporate me time in every single part of my life, and I feel like I'm more open-minded than ever. And I actually thank COVID for that. I was able to slow down and actually reevaluate my life, and it was not easy. It was very, very emotional for me to just kind of stop and think and just listen. And one thing that I did was just listen to different podcasts of just different things, situations, and diverse podcasts of mental health, and just hearing from professionals and different points of view. I was really able to open my mind of different interests for the first time. That wasn't just cello, because at that point it was so draining to even think about it. So, and again, that's I'd say that's normal. It's normal for something to be draining after focusing on it for so long. That's okay. It's okay to take a step back and do something else. So that is what I did. And so I turned to podcasts, and I turned to writing and reading and just relaxing, just being in my bed and talking to family. It seems so basic, but it's kind of I think it's the fundamentals of just, our everyday life. Is something that we leave out, that we don't pay attention to enough. So I think, so I had posted something the other day, and I think the best comment was, and I had said something similar to what I'm talking about now. The best comment from my friend Elisa Jensen, so if you're out there, thank you for this comment. She said, everyone's timeline is different. And yes, things would have been different. I'm thinking back, what if things were different and I decided to double major in cello and something else? Maybe I double majored in psychology, because I'm very interested in psychology. I'm interested in math, English, and writing. I'm interested in I've been very interested in nutritional science, and I've been very interested in politics and social justice. I am just all over the board, and I just realized just how amazing it feels to just educate yourself on all these new things in an interesting and welcoming environment. And you can't do that if you are constantly so hyper focused on one thing, when you could branch out and be open-minded to focusing on all these amazing things and and giving your, not your all, but just a little bit of time to, you know, hear this point of view or listen to that, and not be so close-minded to one particular subject or thing. It's so important to branch out. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that. So one thing that I wanted to include is that this definitely is not easy to be open-minded. I think it takes it takes cutting your ego a little bit down. It definitely did for me. I you want to feel like you have your life together and that you have this huge goal, but sometimes it's not going to work out, or you need to keep building yourself, or maybe it's time to, ask yourself the why question. Like, am I doing it for someone else or a goal that I used to have, or is it truly for me, or is it my time to achieve this goal, or do I still need to sit on it and let it grow? And give yourself the time to just live and pick up new interests. Like how to make your favorite coffee, or a reading club, a virtual reading club, or it could be anything. It's so important to just be curious and branch yourself off. This world is just definitely not limited to doing one thing, and that's just something I believe. So yeah. So to ask a question, I'm going to ask you all is to question your goals and beliefs that you have held on to before you truly ask yourself what makes you happy, with no bias attached to it. So I'll say that again. It's important to question your goals and beliefs, or just do a kind of a little check-in, to ask yourself that why question. Everyone's timeline is going to be different. And although my life may have looked different, changing that major or double majoring or whatever I had to do, it comes down to there's no right or wrong way to live your life. There really isn't. If you were to open a book, a little bit of drama here and there, or confusion, leads to something interesting. It leads to adventure. And I think that's what everyone's life is supposed to look like. So I think it's interesting to relate our own lives to reading a good book. So, of course, that's just my intake on it. I think the most important message to remember is that you have the freedom to decide what you want to do, and to be adventurous, and to do whatever that looks like for you. And that's something that I've really taken from my high school and college experience, is that you don't have to have a you versus the world mentality if you don't want. And if anything, that doesn't create balance in your life. It's so important to reevaluate or do a little check-in with yourself and ask yourself, am I fitting in things that truly make me happy? And do I incorporate that in, let's say, my studying? Do I take, maybe I should be taking a 10-minute break and doing a little meditation, or make myself something to eat? Is it, I really want to write a letter to my friend today, and so I'll do that. She's in quarantine, so maybe just doing that, writing a little letter. Or, am I allowing myself enough time before bed to actually decompress, and giving myself some time to relax and detach from electronics for the day, and allow my mind to just be at ease, and to think, and then finally go into a deep sleep. So just reevaluating the quality of your life and how you're fitting in you time and your love for what you do into every aspect of your life, no matter how busy you are, no matter what job you're doing, no matter your studies, no matter if you're studying a subject that has no interest to you whatsoever at school. See how you can incorporate your love and passions and things that you love into every single day of your life, even if it's busy and can seem chaotic and stressful. I promise, just taking a few moments to just kind of reevaluate yourself and know that there's people that are there to help you and steer you in the right direction, or not even in a direction. I mean, you're in control, but there's people there to kind of hold your hand and be like, hey, it's gonna be okay, and this is completely normal. Even though it may seem very chaotic right now, especially in the time we're living in. It's different for everyone. So just know that you're writing your own book, and no matter what you're doing right now, there is no right or wrong way of living your own life. It's going to look different for everyone. So just don't be so judgmental on yourself. And lastly, just be open-minded. If that's one thing that I took away from college, is how important it is to be open-minded and to stretch your dreams further than you ever believed without limiting yourself to anything. And that includes social life and physical health and your own side, work and passions and things like that. I was able to do it. And as you've heard, all the things that I've done, I was able to incorporate that in my life and reevaluate what I did want, what I didn't want, and still include the things I love. So I kind of chipped away at what I didn't want to create, a part of the life that I wanted. And I know I'm still growing. I have a lot of growing to do, like all of us. But in no means am I rushing the process. So I'll leave you there with that. So go out there, be adventurous, and please be free and more adventurous. All right. So thank you all. And this was WAGA.FM Radioactive, and I will talk to you all next week. Thank you.